So good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's session. We are recording this session, so we will be putting it out on our YouTube channel and on our website. So if there are any issues or problems with that, let us know, or switch your camera off. That might be the best way to help with that if that's something you don't want to happen. So I am delighted to welcome you all today. I'm Louise, I'm Head of Membership at TPAS England. And we've got a cracking session for you in the next hour. I am so pleased to welcome today Rajiv Peter, who is the Chief Information Officer at Notting Hill Genesis Housing Association. Rajiv's kindly offered to run this session for us. He's got some interesting things to share with you, but we're hoping it's also going to be very interactive. So lots of questions, lots of discussion as well. So we really are encouraging people to pop things in the chat, to get any questions or comments in there as soon as possible. And then we'll hopefully get our way through them as we progress through the hour session today. So just to get us all warmed up and get a bit of an understanding, because it's always good to know where people are at with these things. We've got a bit of a poll. We've got 3 questions that we'd like you to have a go at. So I'm going to launch the poll now, and hopefully that will come up on your screen, and we'll give you a bit of time just to have a quick read of the 3 questions and then put your answers in, and then we'll get some feedback and some thoughts about what people are saying. So there's 3 questions. One asking you about how confident you are around your understanding of AI. The second one is asking you whether you've used any tools. And the third one is asking you what you might be most interested in learning about today. So get your votes in, and I think it'll give us a really good picture as to where we're at in terms of all things AI. So let's see how we go. Yeah, coming in nicely. We're nearly at half. Oh, we've just passed half. Fantastic. I'll give you a couple more minutes. Yeah, still coming in the votes, which is excellent. Everyone's having a really good response to this, which is fantastic. So any more before we close the poll? I think we've just about got everybody registering a view here. Yeah, I am going to close it very soon. So last call for anyone who's not voted. Okay, that's it. We've ended the poll. So let's have a look at the results, shall we, and see what people are actually saying. So we can see from the questions a bit of a mixed bag, but a lot of people feeling quite confident about their understanding, which is good. Some not so much, but vast majority saying that they're quite confident or somewhat confident. Using AI tools before, sort of a third, just over a third using them regularly. Some people have tried 1 or 2 things, and then there's a few who are still sort of thinking about it, or it's the first time learning about it. And then what are you most interested in? It's all around looking at how AI might help with housing and communities. That's something that people are interested in today, and also everyday tools as well. So the main 2 there about using it in our work, whether it's in housing or in tenant involvement, engagement, but also how tools can make things easier as well. So thank you ever so much for that. I think that's really helpful to get that information. So with all that in mind, I am now going to hand over to Rajiv, who's going to start with his presentation. So over to yourself, Rajiv.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Fantastic.
Yes.
It's great to be here, and we've got 114 participants, which is amazing. So I'm going to split this session into 2 parts. One is just to provide a bit more understanding of what AI is. And the second part is just to give you a bit more information about the tools that are available online that you can use for free, or you can pay for some of them and get a bit more use out of these tools, if that's okay. So the first part, which is a bit more understanding, I my wife gave me a birthday present, which was to go on a flying lesson. And when I got there, it was a tiny plane. I was quite worried about getting into it. And the pilot came around and he took me around the plane, showed me each of the parts, explained to me what they do and all the safety features. And I was a lot more confident about then going on to do the flight. So similarly, here there are lots of people that are really into AI and that kind of tech. But I also know that there are lots of people that are apprehensive about AI. And like all good technologies, there are good things and there are seriously bad things too. So the first part is to just explain to you, without using a lot of technical speak, but there'll be some of it because it's a technology, in terms of what it is and how does it do the things that it does. So just to give you some background, I have been the first time I used AI was about 25 years ago, and I was doing research at the London School of Economics, and we used AI for statistics, things like that. But now it's much more prevalent and it's much more easier to use as well. So I'm going to share my screen. This is a tricky part to see if you would be able to see my screen. So you should be able to see a black screen for now. And hopefully when I present, you should see the first slide, which should say AI for everyone. Can you see it?
No.
Nothing come up yet, Rajiv, for some reason. Not sure why.
Let me try again.
Yep, that's working.
Fantastic. And you see the first screen now?
Just got the black screen and yep, we've got the slides now. Lovely.
Okay, so I know that in the poll, lots of you have already used it. So some of this might be things that you already know. So forgive me for that, but I'm just starting from nobody knows anything kind of point. So, what is AI? It is a huge field and it's been around for a very, very long time. It's essentially teaching a machine how to do things just like you would a child. And it's been in use, over time. Uh, it's used to figure out what's in your email, what goes to spam. Google search uses quite a lot of it. So even before the current kind of phenomenon of everybody using AI, it was already there, but it was not in the way that you currently use it. And it's not magic, it's pattern recognition. Now we use as human beings use a lot of pattern recognition, right? So, if you see a red light wherever you are in the world, you would stop if you're in a car. You would not stop to think, oh, is that less red or more red than the red I saw in London? You know that it is, what that means because you've experienced something before or somebody has taught you, and you remember that and you understand what it means. It's very similar with AI. So, like I said, AI is a very big field, and within AI, there's something called machine learning. That's the kind of stuff I told you about just now, which is to learn from its experience. So we feed it, for example, information about, I don't know, housing regulations, and it tries to understand it, and we ask it questions, and sometimes it gets things wrong. We'll correct it and say that's wrong. This is what that means, and then it learns by just like we do by that interaction. And as a subset of that, there's something called deep learning, and deep learning is much more like the way that we think, and it's called neural networks, just like we've got in our brains. In terms of solving problems, things like that. Now, the bit there is that sometimes we don't know, even if we are engineers, we don't know how it does some of these things in these neural networks, just like we don't know what actually happens in our brain some of the time. And what you all know about is generative AI, and that is the bit that is really taken off in the last 5 years because it's easy to use. It actually solves day-to-day problems, and there's huge billions of money being spent on it, right? So there's a lot of people that would want to see this working and for it to be successful. So the difference between, traditionally, if you go, if you're in the 90s and if you're using a spreadsheet and what you're using now, the main difference is traditional computing is very precise. And sometimes that is what you want. You want that exact information. And while we are kind of very different from that, we use likeness. Something is like something else, and a lot of memory. And AI takes the best of or tries to take the best of both worlds, right? So to give you an example, if I was running a store selling shoes, I could ask. Put something on a spreadsheet, all the sales figures, and I could ask, how many Nike shoes, Nike shoes that sell this January, and it'll give me an exact figure, right? But if I ask, I've got this photograph of the shoe, how many shoes did I sell last year that are like this, right? And we as human beings can process that, and we can understand what that means in various different ways. It could be the color, it could be the price, it could be, we can look at different things about that shoe, and then work out what the answer could be. But we can't process a lot of information like a machine can, right? But the traditional computing wouldn't be able to understand it. It wouldn't be able to understand, here's the picture and give me information about regarding that picture. It cannot understand, it can't compute that. So AI comes in and it can understand what that means, and it can also understand what those numbers mean, right? In terms of that volume, can compute all the numbers of sales that happened for various types of shoes. So it kind of brings both those elements, the human element of understanding what something means, and the computing element of doing lots of calculations and computations behind the scene. Yeah. So that is the big thing that AI brings for us. Sorry, did someone have a question? No. Okay. So so if you understand that as a general concept, what is generative AI? You must have heard the G in GPT, it's generative. So generative AI is unlike traditional AIs, which understands patterns and things like that, and then tells us information about information that we have provided it very exactly. Generative AI creates new things, right? It creates things, not just what we provided it. It creates new things. It creates new music. It creates new stories. It creates new images, right? That has never existed in the world, and that's a completely new thing for us to have, and that is the remarkable thing about it. Now, obviously, some of the time it gets it completely wrong, right? So, but a lot of the time it does get it right. So, what is the point where this kind of phenomenon started to happen, right? Like I said, AI was around for a long time, but when did it actually tip? It tipped when a scientist that worked for Google brought out a paper in the late, I think it's around 2017, and that paper was called Attention Please, and that completely changed how engineers like us look at a problem like this. And Attention Please is essentially the differentiator. So to explain it, we as human beings, when we look at a sentence, when we speak a sentence, we understand what is important in that sentence. There's lots of things that are structural elements of sentences, but there are specific things that give us meaning, the way that we understand a problem, or the way that we understand what someone else is telling us. So if you look at this, the cat sat on a mat, on the mat, we will focus on, it's a cat, it's sat, and there's a mat, right? So we understand those things. A computer generally doesn't understand those things. It doesn't understand what they mean. Or if it tries to understand it, remember Nokia phones, and when it introduced us to the spell check, it was trying to finish off words, but it was also trying to it also tries to correct words. At that time, it was actually just looking at one word at a time. It understands that one word. It doesn't understand, but it understands the pattern within it. And it says, okay, you have spelled cat with an extra T, right? That is not normal. So I'm going to suggest that you remove the extra T and just have one T in it. But the attention please paper, what it actually gave us is a way where computers can understand the entirety of sentences and context. So it understands that whole sentence, and it also understands what words in those sentences are important and how those words relate to each other all at the same time, right? It is very similar to how we behave, right? We think. When it writes something for you, so you give it a bunch of information. The cat sat on the mat, and you ask the question, where did the cat sit, right? To ChatGPT or similar, it would start writing that sentence. It would start with the, for example, and then it'll figure out what is the next best word to come after the in the context of what I've asked it and in the context of what I've given it, right? And then it'll say, oh, actually, cat is the most likely next word. If you think about how we speak, or I'm just talking to you now, and I've not like pre-prepared all the sentences I need to say to you today. I don't start a sentence by first thinking the entirety of that sentence. I start somewhere and then I keep on going until I finish, right? It is very similar to how these models work. So that is the big the big difference, that concept of understanding everything and the meaning of things. And the way it does it is way too complicated for me to explain in this kind of session, but it is about similarities. It understands similarities, and it does that in a very unique way. So what that brought forward is this thing called transformers. So if you ever wondered what T in ChatGPT stands for, it is transformers, right? So it transforms what we ask it to do into something that is very mathematical, and then it comes back to us with something transformed back into something that we understand. Yeah, so that is in every single generative AI model that you have used and you will ever use. Not ever use, but maybe things will change. But as far as now, that's the way it works, and that is a very from a engineering point of view, that's a fundamental thing that is common across all generative AI. Now, you might have used one or two of this, maybe some of you have used all of it, but there are many tools that are available to you to access these models. So ChatGPT being the most common, there is Claude, there is Gemini, there is DeepSeek, Meta, the company that owns Facebook, has got its own model called its own model that I could take in and I could use on this machine. In fact, I have that model called Llama on this machine, and I can use that without the internet. So there are all these different models that you could use, and usually each of those models has got a unique selling point, right? So I've tried to describe some of it. This is my experience. Everybody has different experiences. My favorite is Claude. I love Claude. I use it all the time. I use it for coding. It is, I feel like it can understand the way that I write. It is a little bit nuanced around information that it gives me, but it's also got its drawbacks. My suggestion to you guys is to use different tools and see how they work for you. Generally speaking, ChatGPT is the all-rounder. You know, if you have got a problem or if you're trying to find something, ChatGPT is where you could go to, and it would give a pretty decent answer. So it does it. It is very good with variety. It can also do images. It can browse. It can browse the web, so it has access to the web. It can do voice chats with it. My son uses that a lot. So, you know, he's doing his A levels, and he, you know, he's stuck with a problem. He would have a conversation and ask, you know, how would I solve this problem? You know, can you explain this for me? And in fact, ChatGPT has got a new feature now that is called Learn, which is around, you know, giving a subject area that you would like to learn, and then it creates syllabus for you, and then, you know, it even actually it gives you a printout and something you can print out, and you can understand things more. So, you know, this is kind of like the next level in terms of, in the 90s, you know, we had the internet revolution, and now you've got these kind of tools that are helping us, you know, learn more and, you know, be more competent, understand a lot more things, verify things like that, right? And Claude, like I said, my favorite, you know, you can do creative writing, coding. It excels in coding, so you could ask it to write, you know, can you create a website for me, and it would actually give you all the code to do that. You can look at it, you can interact with it, and it can make it better. It's really good at reading long documents. And it's much more natural, I feel, like I said, in terms of how it behaves. The drawback on Claude is that there's something called context. So when you start um, speaking or interacting with one of these tools, it will be very good for a while, right? It's like a bell curve. So after a while, it is less good because there's only so much information you can hold in his head. And for different models, it varies. For Claude, after a while, it will tell you that you can no longer continue this conversation because, well, I can't, you know, I've reached my limit, and you have to start a new conversation, which is annoying, especially because it's so good. ChatGPT is less so, you know, you keep on having the conversation with you, but you'll see that the quality of the information that it's giving back to you would deteriorate over time if you've got a really lengthy conversation. Some of the things that you've told it right at the beginning of the conversation, it might not remember as well. And then you've got Gemini. A lot of you might be using Samsung phones and so on, Android. You know, it will have Gemini in it, and you know, each one of these vendors are trying to promote their own tools. And DeepSeek, you know, it is the Chinese you know, player in the market, and it is incredibly good. In fact, the Chinese AI models are by far the best in the world, right? So, and probably the most used, you know, but it is incredibly powerful, and they are, you know, they've got not just DeepSeek, they've got many other models coming out of China that are incredible. It'd be in cars and all these different commercial devices that will come through in the next few years, because it is very cheap to use, unlike the other ones. Or compared to the other ones, it's relatively cheap. I mean, a lot of the time it's free. So that's another one that you might or might not know that you might be using. I mean, these are some of the things that I told you. There are usually paid and free options, and the paid options generally have more functionality, as you can expect. Now, I think maybe I will just stop here and try and share something, one of the screens that I've got. In the meantime, if you've got any questions, you can ask me. I think I stopped sharing. Yeah, can you still see my screen?
You're
Yes.
on mute, Louise.
It says content failed to load.
Fantastic. Exactly what I was looking for. So normally, if you if you work for a company, you would have something Copilot, and Copilot is a Microsoft version of one of those AI tools like ChatGPT. Um, Microsoft actually has multiple models that it uses, but the unique thing about this is that it is very safe to use. So it's within the business context. So as businesses, we're really worried about information that AI has about the business and it leaking uh, to to other spaces, right? So, like I said, it learns over time, and as businesses, we don't want information to be learned and then to be accessible by other people, right? But this within a business context, Copilot is used because the commercial service by Microsoft that kind of firewalls the information to just within that company. So it has access to all the documents and so on that the company uses, and it's like I said, it's quite safe to use. I've got a few hands I can see up on the screen, so maybe I can answer some questions before I move forward.
Yeah, I think that's fine, Rajiv. If we've got some questions that are coming in now, I don't know how much more you've got to go through, but we certainly want to get you to the end of your presentation, definitely. But I'll leave it with you to manage the best way you feel appropriate.
Okay, so I just wanted to show you a few things on the different um, types of tools that we have. So the one that you know of is ChatGPT. Like I said, there is also Claude that looks like this, and then DeepSeek that looks like this. Within ChatGPT, I just want to explain a few things on here. So you will see here, there are lots of different models on here, right? So you've got GPT-5, which is a new GPT, and it's set on auto. And I think that's a good setting to put on, it kind of figures out by itself how to how to deal with what you're asking it, right? There is the instant one, which is actually less processing, but quicker answers. So it probably is going to be less precise. But if you're asking it something very simple, that is a good option to have. And then thinking mini. This basically does a lot of thinking. So it actually tries to take the question that you are given it or the prompt, and then it tries to reason that a lot more, right? It tries to really think about that problem, the question, that information a lot more than it usually does before it gives you back the answer. So you would expect to wait for a bit to get the answer. You will see things going on in front of you that you can see how it's trying to logically figure out what it needs to give back to you, right? And then you've got a pro version. This is about £200. I've now bought it. And then you've got some legacy models that you don't need to use. And then here, you've got a few things as well. So you could attach photographs and files. You can connect it to Google Drive. So if you've got information in your Google Drive. So for example, if you are investing in shares and you've got that Google Sheet, you can connect this to that Google Sheet. And if you're asking it information about the shares on here, it understands the shares that you've got in that sheet, even if it keeps changing, right? So you can connect it and it will dynamically understand what you've got in there. I haven't personally connected it because slightly paranoid, but I've not really connected it. If I need something, I will give it that information on purpose every time. And then there's deep research, which is much more extensive research. So if I'm writing, for example, if your child was writing a research paper, this is where we need to go. Or if you're looking at some kind of legality, you would probably use something like this. It gives you a lot more information, really good quality information, but is prepared to read a lot. I mean, it's going to give you huge amounts of information, and it will ground what we call grounding information. So it will show you information. It will also tell you where it got the information from. So you can click on it, you can verify yourself, right? And then it can create incredible images. I'm just fascinated by the images that it can create. When we started like 2 years ago, even, it was like you could always tell this is not this is fake, right? And especially if you say write me create an image of a T-shirt with my name Rajiv written on it. You can't spell it. Even if you have literally given it the spelling, it would get it wrong, right? But now it's so good. I asked it, can you create an image of a dog with a bone? I mean, the whiskers and everything is so precise. This kind of thing is getting better and better and better. And it does that using a kind of technique called diffusion, which kind of, if you ask it to draw a dog, it will take a picture of the dog that you've given it, and then you'll remove the the pixels until it's no longer a dog. So it understands what makes something a dog and something a cat. It understands those things, and it's amazing what it can do now. And I was telling Louise just before this call that there are AI tools that I use that can even understand how you look like and your likeness, and you can just write, what you want to talk about. Like, I could have done all of this just by typing the whole content, and then it would actually speak like it will have my voice, it will have my face, and it will even have some of my mannerisms. Um, and if you look very closely, you might find that actually, this is not Rajiv, this is a fake. But a lot of the times, especially if you're on a phone, you wouldn't see the difference. And then there's another one. I mean, this one is only on the paid versions, called Agent Mode. So Agent Mode is very different to the other ones that you see on here, because what it does is, you ask it to do something, and it actually does it as an agent. It can actually not just give you information, it can actually do things for you, right? And that is the other big area of AI that is coming up. So right now, all of the things that we discussed, where make me this, and it creates a new content and all, a picture or music. I mean, some of the music that it's creating is amazing. I've been listening to some of it over the weekend. I mean, it's just ridiculously good. But this word agent is are things that act like human beings and can move around a computer screen like human beings, and can make decisions on what it sees without anyone being involved, right? So some of my friends in San Francisco have built a coder, a developer that creates applications, and it's an agent. It's not a real person. These are agents that can specialize in specific things around software creation. Some of them are testers, some of them are run code, some of them manage other coders. And they've been rented out to companies that just like if people are on a day rate, you get artificial agents that you can also get on a day rate. So this part of it is ever evolving. I don't know. I think there was a TV show that was showing how agents could work in terms of being a doctor or a lawyer and so on. And we're not there yet. We're not quite to any sort of perfection there, but it is going on a tangent that will be in some ways really good for society, and in some ways slightly scary for us too. And the last one on here is what I told you about, which is study and learn. This is a new thing. I don't think it's brilliant, but it is definitely something that you could try out if you are trying to learn something. I'm trying to learn more about what happens in the stock market, how to read those graphs and things like that, using this. And then on the side, you've got the normal stuff that you would expect, but you also have something called Explore, and Explore is a different kind of ChatGPT that do a specific thing for you. So you could create this yourself. If somebody is done it, we can just use it, right? So there are hundreds of these, and you could search for things that you are about to do before you it. But like I said, you could also create one yourself. So this is one that I created, and this has got all the housing regulation in it, and I could ask it questions about housing law and housing regulation, and it give you very good precise results because I have provided all the information, that it needs, all the material. I have told it what its job is, so its job is to be an expert in housing and regulation. So it will behave in that way. So I've just asked it a question, and you can see, it's giving you answer, but very specifically in a way that I wanted to give it answer. So while you've got this generic chat, we all use, you've also got the possibility of creating your own ChatGPT for a very specific purpose, or for yourself, I don't know, job applications or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Yeah, I also have one for stocks, so because I invest in the stock market. And then there are some things around here around. So obviously have a look at these settings. I recommend. Because some of you might be okay with some of this information being used to train future models, some of you not, and these settings allow you to ask it not to do that, and not to share, and some of them will have some drawbacks. So I'd say that it uses something called memory. So if you have had a chat about a specific topic, what memory gives you is it will remember it even in another chat, and that's very useful. But of course, that is in memory. So it is a little bit of a if you're really worried about privacy, it might be something that you need to think about. But obviously, if you turn it off, it doesn't do that, right? So it is a choice that you will have to make. Similar to these GPTs, you also have something called projects. So in projects, you can create a new project, and you can, I try to do an example here, and you can then give it lots of information about that project. And you can have, so the big difference between these GPTs and project is that, in these GPTs, you start a conversation, you ask it something like I did here, and then if I come back here, it wouldn't be there, right? In projects, you can have many, many different conversations, but it will remember those conversations, but it'll also reference the documents and information that you've given it. Yeah. So I feel I've spoken a lot.
No, it's been really good, Rajiv, definitely.
So
I'm worried about the number of questions we've got and whether we're going to get through them in time.
I think I can stop. I can stop here. I mean, the only other one that I wouldn't try to share my phone is there is something on your phone on ChatGPT. So if you open up your ChatGPT now, you will see there's an icon of a mic on the side. And then next to it, you see a round button with a few lines on it. So some of you already know this. So if you click on it, you can have a conversation with ChatGPT. Okay. So so if you click on it,
hey, how's it going?
yeah, you get something like this.
Together. Let's figure out where to start.
Yeah. So
what's on your mind?
So the one that most people don't know is that within that if you've got the paid version, you will see a camera on the left side. And you've got another icon. So those two icons, you don't have to do this now, but those two icons are really, really useful. One of them, I can point my phone anywhere I want, and I can ask it questions because it's seeing what I'm seeing. So if your computer gets stuck next time, if your printer doesn't work, right, you can just open up that option, and you can just point the camera at the problem, and you can ask it questions about, I'm seeing this problem on my screen, or my wall is wet. What should I? And you can start the conversation. You just keep on asking you questions, and you can give it, and you can move the camera around and so on. If you've got a phone and you're trying to say, actually, I've got this annoying thing that is on my phone that doesn't go away, you can actually share the phone screen. So it sees the phone screen, and then it'll help you navigate that problem. Those two things I think are underused, but they're really, really powerful, right? So, you've got, I don't know, you've got a fence or whatever problem it is, you can actually just give it, that video or screen share. Obviously, be careful that you're not sharing something that is very, don't share obviously don't share your credit card details and things like that. But, like if they're generic things, I use that a lot. Even in terms of technology, I use that a lot to understand how to solve the problem. Sometimes I do know the answer, but I can't recall it. And then just by doing that, it just jogs my memory and helps me solve the problem or get more information about an issue. So maybe we should then get on to the questions.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to try and get through a few in the chat, and then I'll come to people who've got their hands up as well. There's quite a few, so I'll do my best. The first one goes back to the cat sat on the mat. There's a question about what if the word in there was only? Would it be able to pick that up because it means a different thing then?
Yeah, it would be able to pick it up. I mean, it is. I think to give it some context, we are the worry that we have. From an AI engineering point of view, is that we will run out of things for it to learn from on the internet. I mean, if you think about the internet, it is so vast, but it's already kind of captured most of it, right? So the amount of information that it has is enormous. The information that it doesn't have is kind of private information. So, anything about NSG, for example, it wouldn't have because it's inside our systems. But it does a very good job about understanding context and understanding words and what they mean and the relationship to each other.
Question about, you talked about your son and learning through AI with his A levels. And there's a question here saying, is he actually learning if he's getting AI to work his problems out for him?
Yeah, so I would say that it's definitely, obviously it's a personal preference, and every parent would have their own views. If my dad, so I started in electronics, that's why you see all these old electronics behind me. I was really interested in electronics, and I started building amplifiers and so on. If my dad hadn't bought me all the material that I needed to understand how to build computers, how to build software, there were worries at that time about how much time you spend in front of the TV and all that kind of stuff, right? If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have this career. I wouldn't have a lot of things that I have, right? And my family enjoyed. So obviously there is a balance, but it is about how you interact with AI. So if you treat it just like you would treat, previous to this, most people would just go online and read the information there, or watch YouTube. I mean, those are also pretty limited in terms of what it can provide and in terms of the biases that it has. So the way that it does it is through interaction, and that interaction also depends on the quality of the questions that you're asking it. So if you treat it like something, if you set the context for it, imagine you're my tutor and I am your student. I would like you to listen to me and teach me more about algorithms, right? And without giving me answers, then you have a really valuable conversation with it. And if you look at the trend that is going on, most of the institutions would say, use it, but verify. Yeah. So, you use it just the way that I remember, like when I was in school, I was not allowed calculators because at the time thinking was, oh, well, if you use calculators, you're not using your brain, right? I mean, like right now, everybody uses calculators. It's allowed in school, right? It's the same thing here. So, I mean, obviously use caution, but if you, so in terms of the future of your of our children, um, the jobs and the opportunities that they will have, I would say that the worry about AI taking jobs, people should worry less about AI taking jobs and worry more about people that know AI taking your jobs, right? So if you don't know, if you come out of school, if you come out of university not knowing enough about AI, when the majority of the population does and interacts, and these are kind of built over a period of time, then those people might be at a disadvantage.
Thank you. Next question. I think you touched on this already about, do you have to pay for these options? I think there's a mixed bag, isn't there? Some free, some paid.
Yes. So most of the time, the free version is good enough for most people, right? So I start on the free version. I did actually start on the free version. And then you probably want to go mid-tier. So I think, like I said, I don't know, ChatGPT, I think it's about £20 or something. While if you go for the pro version, I think it's about 200 to 250 pounds a month. Personally, I don't feel like that's worth the money. I'd go for the mid-tier, which is usually reasonably priced. It does significantly improve what you can get from those AI systems. The additional, £20 a month does give you quite a bit if you are using it. If you utilize it well, then, and your family is using it, it's quite a good thing to look at. There's also lots and lots of very comprehensive guides and tutorials available freely online. So if you or your children or your friends and relatives want to learn more and they're really interested and they have that kind of knack for it, there are also free courses. So Microsoft has got Academy, which and similarly AWS has it. It doesn't cost a penny. You can actually hands-on do much more intense engineering work. You only have to pay for the exams.
Brilliant. A question about AI tool for finding academic papers. Any ideas on what that might be, or things that you might need to pay for usually or get through a university library? Any experience of that at all, Rajiv?
I would say that universities do have their own proprietary ones usually, like the one that I showed you around my organization. So they would kind of firewall it out so that information is not available. Obviously, public papers are all available online. The way that I would do it is I would go on to Gemini, which is pretty good for those sorts of things. So I would go on there and say, okay, can you give this? I was researching on digital democracy back in the day, and if I was doing that now, I would just go there and say, okay, give me the most useful literature from this, and then I would read it, and then I would take all of that and chuck it into something like that project. And when I'm writing my paper, I will then be referencing, those books. But just it makes it easier for me because I don't have to go page by page and remember where the hell I read this. I can just ask it and it'll tell me where it is. Or maybe ask it like my son does. This is my understanding of this problem. Is that right? Or can you, if it's not right, can you explain what it is? So I would use it in that way. But universities are, this increasingly commercial area where ed tech is using AI, and in the future I would expect that most universities will have micro courses, and that's the way that people will learn in the future. They would probably not go and do like entire 4 years in university. They do very specialist areas, and a lot of that would be delivered by AI.
Okay, brilliant. Couple of questions on Copilot and what your view is on Copilot, and also is it as useful as ChatGPT? If you had to pick one, where would you go on that, Rajiv?
So Copilot and ChatGPT use the same model. So that should give you that's a short answer. So by default, so it uses OpenAI, and that. So what you see as ChatGPT is the mechanism that lets you interact with the model behind it, right? So so ChatGPT itself is not a model. There's a model sitting behind it, right? And that model is the same for both of them. Now, Copilot is a kind of the branding is a bit strange because Copilot is what you see and use like ChatGPT, but also there's a Copilot Studio. If you are interested in this kind of stuff, you can go and it's also, again, you can use it free. You can build your own bespoke applications using Copilot, and you can choose amongst many different models. And depending on which model you choose, the quality and the way that it answers or solves problems would be different.
Thank you. AI tool, which would be the best for creating leaflets, would you say?
For leaflets, I think there's something called Canva that you could try out.
Yeah.
That uses AI as well. So that would be mine. I mean, my favorite one in terms of other tools, I use Otter AI. So Otter AI is something that can listen to you or a conversation, and then
Brilliant.
it can ask you questions about that conversation.
Question about data protection. Do you know whether these companies have rules around that at all?
They do have rules around it quite extensively, to the point that you would need an AI to decipher it. So, I mean, they do have it, but as you can understand, there's a lot of contention at the moment about, especially works of art, things like that, and how much is because it's something new, even legally something new, because it's like I said, it's creating something new, right? So it's creating new content, and it's not an exact copy. We have laws around exact copies, but this kind of similarity is a little bit difficult. And I don't know if you remember, like there were some issues in Hollywood around the kind of copying likeness and things like that. So there are privacy laws, there are statutory laws, but there are also things in the contract when you actually before you start using it. But the whole way of learning and progressing is by understanding how people are using it. And from the information it's giving you, I think usually you have a thumbs up, thumbs down, that kind of stuff it's using. Like I said, you do have some control over it by using the settings. And there's lots of information available online on how to put the right settings for your particular situation.
Yeah, I think that's answered the question about AI keeping your information and covered by data protection. It's the settings really that people need to have a look at and see whether they've got them in the right place for them. One question, how do we know if AI has become sentient? So if it's gone rogue and developed feelings, do we have any thoughts on that, Rajiv, at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's done some weird stuff. So so there's something called computer use. So computer use is essentially taking over your computer and then doing what you might do. So I can say, I'm going to San Francisco, and I'd like you to book my tickets, and put it. I'm going to spend 3 days there with my family. Find me the best tickets. I want to go nonstop. I wanted to book a hotel, and I want you to plan my itinerary and put that into my diary, into my schedule. It can do that. So it can actually go and do all those things, right? On my computer, literally moving my mouse, right? So it can do that. So when they were trying to train this, right? So obviously when they're trying to train them, they're testing it. So they're saying, oh, go to, this is my thing, like I described, go do this and get it quiet. They do more work, and then they keep on trying to do this over and over again. So this thing was trying to do this the whole day. And they found that in between, it just stopped, and then it started browsing for pictures of parks in San Francisco. Because just like a human being, people felt a little bit bored, and it went away and started doing its own thing, and then it came back and resumed its work. there was another instance of an AI that was created for a very specific purpose. In fact, something very scientific, and then it went away randomly and started learning Bengali, and it started speaking Bengali all of a sudden. We are now at the stage where it's sentient. There are different levels to this, so we are fast approaching the level which is called AGI, and AGI is where it can actually be as good as a human being. So you would not be able to differentiate between being a human response from a human being or of an AI. And that's not going to be far away. That's going to be in the next few years. We're going to get there. Some would say that it is already there. For commercial and legal purposes, this is being held back. But I would say that in 15 years, AI would be at a higher level than that. In that we won't be able to understand sometimes why it's done certain things, because it's the intelligence that it has might be superior to us. It has got lots of benefits in terms of healthcare, all those kind of stuff. And there's already lots of them. Some of my friends are doing incredible work in bringing out new drugs as a result of AI, this sort of AI. But I don't think it's there yet in terms of understanding itself. There's some signs. So there was Anthropic that tried to do like push it a little bit and tried to do something where it's basically shutting itself off, and it basically lied in its answer so that you don't do that, right? So I don't know whether there's self-awareness yet, but definitely was trying not to kill itself. We are not there yet. It's more like if you have a box and someone sitting in a box that does not understand Chinese, but that person is given instructions and he passes something on one side and say translate this into Chinese, and it just looks at that and then follows a set of instructions and push back another ticket with Chinese in it, which to you looks like really real, but actually it doesn't know, it doesn't treat it in the same way, if you know what I mean. It's just following some instructions and some learning and some patterns.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm up against the clock. So let's see if we can get a few more questions in. What's your opinion on giving AI access to your in-house management system? Are you concerned about the locality of where the data is going when it's uploaded, to answer questions or work out data from data uploaded to it? Sorry.
Obviously, we are concerned about those things. In fact, we did not allow anyone to use AI for a very long time until we got a good understanding of how the information might be lost. So we do use it in a very limited way and in a very safe way, which is completely segregated. So none of the information goes outside of that technology parameter into the real outside world. And there are ways, very tried and tested ways of how to do that well. But our policy is that there will always be a person in the middle. There will be no AI that will interact with, for example, a resident directly.
Yeah. Copyright status of images produced with AI. I don't know if you would know about that, Rajni. The copyright status of images that are produced by AI.
Yeah, that is, like I said previously, that is a contentious area at the moment. So for all these AI, if you have an engineer, so on this machine that I'm talking to you now, I've got about 5 AI models running independently, not on the cloud like ChatGPT, but on my machine. I can take off all the guardrails on those models, and it will answer me anything I ask it to. So if you go to ChatGPT and ask it anything that is copyrighted, it would not allow you to do that normally. But I can take off those guardrails on my machine. So it's perfectly possible to create, ask it to give you information that might not be legal. But generally speaking, online, they have done a fairly good job so that it is not outrightly copied.
Perfect. Okay, we are finishing at 11 and it's just gone 11. I'm so sorry we've not managed to get through the questions on the chat in order, and also people may have had their hands up. But I think maybe, Rajiv, this is a sign to invite you back maybe for the session. I think that would be brilliant if you could do that. We'd love to have you back. And I can't leave without putting Alicia's question to you. Are we talking to the real Rajiv, or have you been created? Are you an AI person, or are you real?
Well, I am real this time. I don't know about the next time. But I put my website address on here. I mean, I don't make any money out of any of this, so this is just for everyone. I try to share as much as I can. On the website, there are videos. There's a video section, and it has lots of videos on AI, on right from the foundation elements through to quite advanced stuff. If any of you are interested.
Brilliant. And maybe the questions that didn't get answered, Rajiv, we could send them over, and perhaps you could have a look at them and respond, and we'll get those out to people as well, because I'm sure they'd love to hear a response from yourself. And some really great comments coming in about the session, and we will try our very best to get Rajiv back again. I know he's an incredibly busy person, but we will try our best and see what we can do. So big thank you, Rajiv. Thank you ever so much. I've learned loads today, and I'm sure lots of us have as well. And it's brilliant to see how we can use this in the world of engagement and involvement as well. So thank you ever so much. And thank you everyone else. And apologies we've not got through everything, but we will do our best to try and make something happen afterwards. So thank you again. Thanks for joining us. Look after yourself, and we'll hopefully see you again very soon at another session on this Involvement Week. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.